share with us your definition of responsible AI.
We stress that AI systems are only as good as the data that they process.
If you were to offer a sentence or two about takeaways from this conversation for data and AI leaders.
Everyone is ready for AI except your data. So as you look at your budgets, as you look across your organizations, data quality, data governance, mastering your data, I think you're going to be critical as you move forward with AI.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to our podcast today. This is Don't Panic, It's Just Data. I'm Kevin Petrie. I'm VP of Research at BARC, where I run the data management practice. Today, we're unpacking a topic that's more critical than ever, which is responsible AI and the role of trusted data inputs. If AI is only as good as its inputs, why do we focus so much on clever models and too little on data preparation and data governance? You can't trust an AI system if you cannot trust its data inputs. That's the paradox that many organizations face today. Joining me is Amy Horowitz, Group Vice President of Solutions Specialist Sales and Business Development at Informatica. Amy, welcome.
Thank you, Kevin. I'm so excited to be here. As you know, this topic is near and dear to my heart. So I'm very excited to be here today.
I think you're the perfect guest for this because I'm guessing you get an earful from customers all the time about this topic, given the solutions that Informatica has.
Not only from what Informatica offers, but I think what our customers and prospects out there are asking for is exactly what you said. No longer is it okay to just have okay data. And so our tagline is really interesting, and that's everyone's ready for AI except your data. So I'm so happy to be here, Kevin.
Very cool. And I should share that 2 days ago, we published new research here at BARC on, it's called Lessons from the Leading Edge, written by my colleagues, Sean Rogers and Merv Adrian. And we asked, among other things, what are your obstacles to AI success? And data quality 16 months ago was obstacle number 8. It is now obstacle number 1. And I think that it's not a surprise. Data people have known it for a while, but finally it's getting C-level focus, which hopefully is good news for data governance teams and so forth. But with that preface, kind of showing my bias on this, Amy, perhaps you could tell us just a little bit about yourself and your background and your role at Informatica.
Of course. Thank you for having me. So my name's Amy Horowitz. I lead our solution sales team and our business development team here at Informatica, now Salesforce. So we're really excited about that. Salesforce just acquired us 2 weeks ago, and we're really excited to see where this journey takes us. So my team specifically, think of us as scuba divers. We come in from a use case perspective and help define use cases and pain points that our customers see from a data perspective. So it could be anything from going to market faster, understanding your customer from end to end, and more importantly, putting those guardrails around your data. And obviously metadata is the key to everything that we deal with. So I'm really excited to be here.
Very cool. Agree completely on all those points. So Amy, to kick things off, perhaps you could share with us your definition of responsible AI and how it relates to an organization's data foundation.
Yeah, it's really interesting. So I want to go back to what you said just a second ago, and that is AI is everywhere. We're hearing about it in the boardrooms. We're hearing about it at the water cooler conversations. I was just at AWS reInvent this last week, and that was the topic of every booth, every conversation was something around AI. So for us, responsible AI from an Informatica perspective really means, how are you going to create your data foundation and make sure that it's clean, trusted data? So we stress that AI systems are only as good as the data that they process. So think about it, Kevin, without trustworthy data, what are you going to get? So I'll give you an example. You talked about, that now data management was kind of left out. What we've typically seen is that AI budgets are massive. We have executives saying we have to do AI, but to your point, the data management piece was not really, I would say, funded, and the folks requiring data quality and data management were kind of left out in the cold. Well, I think for us and what our prospects and customers in the industry is really seeing, to your point, is that responsible AI requires data management and clean data quality. So for us, it really means having trustworthy data, that it's even, explainable as these models may fail. you have to be able to have clean and trusted data.
Agree completely. And it is interesting because, so if we look at AWS reInvent, I'm finishing up a blog now with my colleague Sean about announcements coming out from it. We have insights on what AWS users, what their priorities are. There was very little coming out that focused on data quality. There were a number of initiatives related to governance of agents and privacy, things like that. But the data quality element wasn't really there. And I think the challenge is that there's no silver bullet, whiz bang solution. There are a number of tools and techniques and their processes. It really takes sort of a fundamental look at your data governance program. And I know that Informatica works with a lot of companies in that regard. In your view, what are the core principles that organizations should focus on to ensure that data is governed and the AI is fair, transparent, and accurate?
Yeah, so I think a couple of things. I feel like governance in the past has been a big red X, right? People are like, nope, not going to do it. You're going to slow my process down. You're going to slow me down. And by the way, I don't have this budget for a huge data governance program. I think for us, what we have seen a lot of customers do, number one, find the use case to start small, right? There, and especially when you think about banking and financial, and then of course, healthcare, life sciences, those are very regulated markets. So for us, we see a lot of success in those markets. And that is starting small, finding a use case that makes sense, and wrapping what I would call guardrails around your data. So by the way, just mastering data, mastering your customer, mastering that golden record is great, but there's also metadata and data outside of what you master that our customers have to do. So I think for us, making sure that, and I quote this a lot, my buddy Jim Rowan at Deloitte says, data that's good enough is not good enough anymore. And I've said that a couple of times, but it's really critical. So starting small, making sure you find value in what you do quickly, because I will say this, you can quote me on this too. Governance is squishy. I don't mean that it's hard to do, but I mean sometimes it's hard for folks to find an ROI when it comes to data governance. But it is a must-have. It is not a need to have. It is a must-have. You must have governance to be successful.
Very much. I think that it'd be helpful to understand your perspective. You work with a lot of AI adopters. Are there examples of data quality, insufficient data quality, or governance shortfalls undermining the AI outcomes?
Yeah, I think, we've had very early adopters. We've heard, by the way, in the market, we've heard where banking and financial institutions made credit decisions with bad data. So I'll give you an example that hit home. By the way, I have a great credit score, and so does my husband. But bias was built into the model when I applied for a credit card that he got it and I didn't. And that was an example of, and true story, I have good credit. That was an example of one that came into play, and it really impacted me. We also heard the story of some HR tools that were leveraging AI from a hiring perspective, and candidates that were fit for the role were not getting passed through because of bias built into the model. So if you don't have that trusted data and the underlying metadata and understanding of your data, what good is AI going to do? Again, it goes back to my point of 70% accuracy in data is not good enough anymore. Our customers, I expect good data when I run a model, and I know all of our customers and prospects do as well.
Very good points. One of the nuances in our research is we found that there is insistence now, rightfully, on clean inputs, governed, accurate inputs. There is flexibility when we're dealing with probabilistic models, Gen AI in particular, about the quality of the outputs, because hallucinations persist. The benchmarks reward models for guessing, and I think these are probabilistic mechanisms by design. So sometimes the models are going to be a little inaccurate. And so there is the need to have employees that are vigilant, inspecting, cleaning outputs before putting it into the wild. I'm sure you see that within some of the customers that you work with, that the employees are kind of the front line of governance in a lot of ways.
They are. And it's interesting. So I grew up in IT. I'm in Austin, by the way. Grew up in IT for a long time, took this jump to the dark side of sales in 2009 as most of my friends. But, that problem, I mean, even persisted back then. I think there was an assumption that IT owned all the data, but reality is business users and people that are responsible for the data really understand the context around that and the metadata associated with it. So I think hallucinations are something that we're not, we know they're going to happen, Kevin, I think is what I'm trying to say. We know they're going to be some. As a matter of fact, if you look at some co-pilots and some tools that are out there, it will say some data might not be accurate. I mean, as an industry, it's something that we've got to be prepared to answer. Hey, Kevin, that data you're getting might not be accurate, but are you okay with that? So I think we're seeing it all over the place. Hallucinations are something that I think we put up with today. I don't know what that will look like in 10 years.
It will be very interesting to see. One thing I've noticed is that a lot of the compelling use cases now are applying Gen AI as a natural language interface that then translates the request into something much more reliable, like a SQL query of a table. That'll give you some deterministic outputs. So the natural language process is involving more judgment calls and potentially hallucinations, but you're mitigating the primary risk, which is surfacing bad data.
I think it's so funny because, again, I just mentioned my journey of going from IT into sales. Like, you don't want somebody like me anymore in a catalog or writing SQL queries. To your point, I need to be leveraging natural language query. I just did it this morning as an example. I'm trying to figure out how many non-Informatica customer meetings I had throughout 2025. I used Copilot, used natural language query, and it gave me the search string I need to use in Microsoft Office. So again, somebody like me that's a business user, we're just used to it now being so easy to find the data that we need. And I think, to your point, we've got to make sure that the inputs are accurate and the data's there. So
yeah, so that's very interesting because in your example, you have the business domain expertise to spot the hallucination. If it's somehow pulling up the wrong type of data, the data for someone else in Informatica or something, you're immediately going to spot that, even though you don't know SQL. And perhaps you do. I won't speak for you, but that's very cool. Well, it's becoming somewhat of an outdated skill in the area of vibe coding. So if we consider the other side of the equation, perhaps you could talk about how responsible data practices have either prevented failure, mitigated risk, or in fact enabled successful AI outcomes. I have thoughts on this as well, but I'll let you go first.
yeah, I mean, listen, we have a lot of customer examples today, Informatica customers that have leveraged AI have gained much success. So as an example, we always hear about automation, saving time, going to market faster, knowing their customers. So Holiday Inn Club, vacation clubs as an example. So they scaled through data quality. And part of that was understanding with Salesforce and CRM, really understanding their customer, going to market faster. And AI was a big part of that. So did I answer your question? I feel like I just skated around that one.
Yeah, no, I think that's good. I think I've noticed and would love your feedback as well. We did, with some of our survey data, we did a cross-cut on compliance sensitive enterprises, 2,500 or more employees, insurance, healthcare, public sector, utilities. And we found that, in my view, because they have a long history of dealing with compliance, they were able to move faster with AI. They have more structured data in particular in production with AI. More of them are leaders. They have cross-functional AI programs, and they're achieving better results. And all that, I think, stems from the fact that they started with a stronger data foundation. When we look at a lot of the showcase users of AI, oftentimes they're in healthcare or they're in financial services in particular.
Yeah, we see the same thing. I mean, I don't even want to go down the rabbit hole now of unstructured data, but yes, and whether they called it data governance or compliance at that, back in the day, that's exactly what they were doing. So having those frameworks built out where it's, to your point, very structured, and the governance was wrapped around it, whether we wanted to call it data governance or not. But we absolutely see that. It's interesting because what we've seen a lot, Kevin, is also around AI governance. People today are very interested. They've moved past hey, we know we need to have policies documented. We know we need to have, column, table, schema. We understand what drift looks like. We know all of those kind of basics. And now it's moved to, hey, I have agents now. They're deployed in the wild. AI governance is something that customers are talking to us about daily. And so are you seeing the same thing? Are you seeing research about AI governance?
Much. It's a topic I've been looking at quite a bit. We have a report coming up next year that looks at data and AI governance. Most companies have a basic, not perfect, but a basic data governance program. And the task is now to address the inherent risks of models and agents, which include models hallucinating, propagating bad decisions, and then agents taking action, damaging actions based on that, or even showing subversive behavior. If reasoning models perceive they're being watched too closely, they can start to deceive users, which is a big issue. So there are a lot of ways in which companies are starting to get serious about those risks as well. And it has to be part of a collaborative effort across the data teams, the AI teams, and developers as well.
It's pretty interesting. We talk about this a lot. So think about when GDPR came out, right? I don't remember what year that was. It's been quite a while, but GDPR came out and, organizations could get fined. So let's just say, hey, you crossed the boundary, data sovereignty wasn't taking effect, you transitioned data, right to be forgotten, all of that stuff. I got fined, right? An organization would get fined, you would pay the fine, and that would be it. Now with AI governance, I think one of the things that our customers are realizing is that not only could you get fined, but the reputational damage of your organization can critically impact your business. So it's not just, hey, let me fine you, Kevin. It's, hey, your organization has given me the wrong data. There's bias built in, there's hallucinations built in. And by the way, your organization I'll never work with again because I don't trust them. So we're really seeing a lot of that. The risk is not just, let me fine you. Again, it's not to mention what it could do to mankind. I mean, we haven't even talked about the ethical piece of AI. That's a huge topic that my friend Jason Dupree and I talk about a lot. If you ever have a chance to talk to Jason, he runs our privacy business at Informatica. Got a ton of experience. He's in EMEA. So he's somebody that I recommend that our customers really hear from. So
that's great. Yeah, it is interesting to see. You look at there was a rush to press releases in 2023 as everyone got over the shock of ChatGPT and what it might mean. So McDonald's, for example, said they would have Gen AI taking orders at the drive-thru, and it led to some amusing, not fatal or anything, but pretty amusing mishaps where all sorts of orders were being goofed up by the robots. So they rolled it back, and they're starting to figure out better ways to do that. And I think that there's a definite need to make sure that you move slowly and get things right in order to protect your brand. It's been interesting to see that customer service boomed initially as a Gen AI use case, and it stayed strong, but it hasn't continued to rise as much. And I think the reason is that everyone's still figuring it out. If you're dealing with your crown jewels, which is your relationship with your customers, you don't want to over automate that because that can start to really impact the business.
I think the video I saw, the young lady in the drive-thru ordered like 800 fillet of fish. I mean, I saw the video and it really, again, the reputational issue that I think some, customers at McDonald's realize, okay, they're not ready for this. But good news is they realized it quickly. They've, I wouldn't say failed fast, but they've moved quickly to resolve those issues. And I'm excited to think about how much faster you could get your fillet of fish, or if they knew who you were when you pulled up. So those kind of things, I think we'll see an improvement.
Very much. We had to make a change to our car insurance. Our middle son hit a deer a few weeks ago. So I was on a chatbot working with someone who she had a name and stuff, but I really wanted to say at the end, "Are you a robot?" She did a great job, or it did a great job. But there is that ambiguity now that if executed safely, can deliver some real productivity benefits. So I think that I'd love to get your thought. I alluded to collaboration across teams, data, AI, developer teams, and I'm curious what your perspective is on that, because you've got this deep experience, and Informatica has a deep relationships with the data teams and increasingly the AI teams. Now, as part of Salesforce, there's more and more happening on the application side. And how do you see those three groups working together? And what role does the new Salesforce and Informatica play in that?
I'm going to take a step back pre-Salesforce. It's one of the things I agree. Like Informatica was known to work with IT and really in the IT budget because people knew us as an ETL tool. So over the past 10 years, we really focused on that business use case, how we can enable the business faster, whether it's going to market faster, understanding your customer. I've kind of talked about some of that. I think for us, it is highly critical. If the line of business is not in our conversation today, we are missing the boat. I do not ever want a sales rep from Informatica going in and saying, Kevin, I'm here to talk to you about a data catalog. You should shoo them out of your office if that's happening. We're really, and that's the role, honestly, of what my team does, a specialist team does, is, help kind of find and define those use cases with our core sellers to make sure that we're finding business value that you need. So to answer your question, now that Salesforce, we're part of the Salesforce picture, I think you have to think about the use cases around governance and context around the metadata. So we are, kind of data management front end, and then we add the application piece to that. We're the glue between the customers, the business users, the tech users, and then the app dev teams to help ensure that the data management is there. So context around metadata is probably the number one thing that I would take away from how we will work better together. The excitement from our customers out there today, of customers that are joint Salesforce plus Informatica, they see the value of having quality data within their CRM system, or they see us partnering with MuleSoft to ingest and have app integration done at the MuleSoft level with them. So when I think about data governance, at the application level at Salesforce, they have their own version of data governance layer on top of what we do, which gives a true enterprise data governance and data management solution.
Yeah, and I love the comments about metadata in particular. I look at metadata as, on the one hand, it's glue. It kind of stitches together, helps you stitch together different things by understanding the nature of different elements and how they interoperate. And it's also a lubricant to help make sure that these things work together without a lot of friction. Some of the research we're doing now looks at catalogs of catalogs, essentially bridging different catalogs in order to build an overarching set of metadata that can help guide teams and applications as they consume data.
That is by far one of our top use cases that we see today. So as an example, we have customers that leverage Databricks today that use Unity Catalog. We're never going to come in and say, Kevin, you should rip and replace, unless you're unhappy, of course. But we'll never come in and say, let's rip and replace. What we want to be is that map to your metadata. So being able to find, understand, and trust that data, and know that, if you can't find your data, you can't do anything. So that metadata, being that map to that metadata, is really critical for us. And catalog of catalogs, because we are the Switzerland of data, which means we can ingest from anything, that metadata gets ingested into our system. We scan at the source, and then we're able to give you insights, whether it's lineage from source to target, whether it's context around technical metadata. That's what our customers are asking for. They need to see that. They need to understand it. And more importantly, they need to find our other data. So as an example, we have customers that do lots of mergers and acquisitions. And the first thing they say is, what data do we have? What are we acquiring? And this is a great way to do it.
Very interesting. We looked at across AI projects. There's feature engineering, data prep, production applications, model training, and so forth, all these different aspects of AI projects. And we found that 47% of them in aggregate are taking place in two or more places, two or more data centers, hybrid environments, two or more clouds. And so that distributed nature really underscores the need for metadata to help guide and govern that data foundation to enable AI.
So Kevin, I'll give you another example. So think about reference data, right? So I am an airline, I'm a sales organization, I buy Dun & Bradstreet data. You're in finance at the same organization, you buy the same data. So imagine being able to see that data is already purchased and it's already in your catalog and you can find it. That's a huge use case. So not only is it a cost saving use case, but then you're enabling your business to go to market faster or understand their customer better because it's already there. So those are the kind of use cases we try to help our customers find and understand to help them move forward from a data management perspective.
Very cool. So, Amy, this has been a great conversation, very educational. Really appreciate your time today. Any parting thoughts if you were to offer a sentence or two about takeaways from this conversation for data and AI leaders?
Yeah, I mean, listen, everyone is ready for AI except your data. So as you look at your budgets, as you look across your organizations, data quality, data governance, mastering your data, I think you're going to be critical as you move forward with AI. Also, don't forget to enable your lines of business. We didn't even really get into reskilling. We should have another session to talk about what's happening in the market today with reskilling. It's really big. As a matter of fact, I spent some time with Deloitte, who's one of our top GSIs, and it was the whole topic of conversation for 2 days. Is what are we doing from a employee/development conversation? What are we doing about that? So I would say take a look at your business, enable your lines of business, but also don't forget about data management. And everyone's ready for AI except your data.
There we go. Good. And until next time, we certainly love to talk about skills, operating models, people, organizations, a lot of big topics there too. So Amy, thanks again. And until next time. So thanks everyone for listening. We hope you took away a lot from this episode. For further information on what we've talked about, you can head over to www.informatica.com. We'll be back next week with another episode in our podcast series. Until then, make sure you subscribe to this podcast on all major platforms. You can also follow the conversation on our social platforms at EM360 Tech on X and LinkedIn. For more great daily content, you can head over to em360tech.com.